Hello, you're listening to Do Yourself a Favour, the podcast about learning from experience and the things we do to make our lives easier. My name's Tim Sisney from Make Work Work Better, and each episode I'll be talking to my guests about their epiphanies, their inspirations, and the magic of their workflow.
And I'm here with Caroline Plumer. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to Do Yourself a Favour.
Thanks very much.
Would you like to tell everybody a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So as you've already said, I'm Caroline Plumer. I'm a BACP accredited therapist. So I work with individuals, couples, businesses, and I've also got a team that I work with who do a similar thing to me. So we're a lovely little online wellness hub offering therapy, professional development coaching, stress and anxiety management coaching, and that's my company called CPPC London.
Fabulous. And Do Yourself a Favour is all about things you've learned and learning from experience, and so how your experiences have shaped you, your workflow, just kind of how you get things done, that sort of thing. So you ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Shall we get into it?
Do it.
Okay. So first question is, what's something that you wish you'd learned sooner?
I don't know whether this is I wished I'd learned or I wished I knew. So hopefully this answers your question, but just that I am actually capable of running a business. I think it was a scary thing. I was working in a corporate job and it really wasn't something I'd ever intended to do, ever meant to do, but I'd fallen into it mid-recession. And I got to the stage where I couldn't hack doing something that I really didn't enjoy anymore. And through a series of wonderful and bizarre events, I ended up retraining as a therapist. And that was scary enough, going it alone as a therapist and going into private practice and needing to recruit clients. But when I first started thinking about, well, actually, I want to pitch stuff to businesses and I'd like to have a team, I really held myself back. And I tried to take the approach of speaking to other people that were already running businesses, and can I kind of sneak in that way and work for them and run their mental health branch or whatever it would be, their kind of wellness arm of their business, because I just had this belief that I would not be capable of working out what to do by myself. And I think maybe the fact that nobody wanted me to go in and help their business should have told me something. But the great opportunity that it did provide was that I had to figure it out for myself. I had to work out how I was going to recruit a team, run a team, what they would actually do, how it would work, what the setup would be. And I did it, and it wasn't anywhere near as traumatic as I thought it would be. And pretty soon after setting it all up, I had a team and the team had clients. And yeah, with hindsight, in a way, it's much nicer to step back and go, okay, I've done that. I did that by myself. I really didn't think I could, but I did. And I'm definitely still a massive fan of collaborative work. It can get quite lonely running your own business, doing everything by yourself. But just because I like working in a team and I work collaboratively, maybe that's my best way of working, not my favorite way of working, doesn't mean I can't do things by myself. I am capable of doing things by myself.
At what point, when do you think you realised that you were doing it? When did it start to feel like, oh, actually, that's me now? When did you start to believe it?
I mean, the decision to start doing it by myself was almost, I was kind of backed into that. I got to the point where I was like, no one's ready to collaborate. So either I do it by myself or I don't do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So once I realised that was the case, for the short term, I think I stopped worrying so much about whether it would work or not. Obviously, the thoughts still crossed my mind, but I just thought I need to do it and see what happens. But almost as soon as the website went live, we had some initial inquiries for the members of the team. I mean, we weren't inundated, but just one or two clients. And anyone that's worked in private practice knows that when you set out, you can wait weeks or months without even getting a client. So within the first few months of the website being up and running and everybody on the team having work, I think that's when I was able to step back and say, oh, I've actually done quite a good job here. This isn't bad.
What difference does it make when it's just you versus when you're trying to do something with a team in a large group? It's like kind of how you felt about your ability and so on.
I really like that, sitting in a room together, coming up with ideas, and sometimes somebody will say something and it will spark a new idea for you, or maybe someone else thinks of something you didn't think of. I think there's something really interesting and exciting about that. And I'll stand by that even now. That's for me a much more fun, interesting way of working. But I think the made up difference in my mind, the story that I told myself that wasn't right was, if I have to run all the technical stuff and all the financial stuff, I won't know how to do it. And if I try and work out how to do it, what if I don't understand? What if I can't figure it out? But I was forced to figure it out. And actually none of it was quite as scary as I thought it would be. So, there is a difference working in a team, but there's the real differences, the realities, and the things that I've made up in my head about needing to work in a team, and they're two quite different things.
Did you have a sense that it was all on you? How long did you hold on to that thing of it being all you?
So I have a group of therapists and coaches that are amazing at what they do. And in that sense, I'm very hands off. I'm not a very controlling boss. So people work when they want to work, they fit it in around their other life stuff. They call me if they need me, but otherwise I trust people to get on with their own caseload. But the actual running of the business, that is all still down to me. And that's still tough at times, and that can be a bit lonely. And also there are parts of that job that frankly I really don't enjoy. I'm not someone that enjoys sales. I'm a therapist. I want to go to work and talk to people, about deep stuff and the things that are going on for them and support them and help them. I don't want to be writing sales emails or making sales calls, but there are parts of the job that necessitate you to do things that aren't necessarily in your comfort zone, or, it wouldn't require you to do if you were just one individual in private practice. And, I've started outsourcing bits and pieces here and there, but that, that comes with its own challenges. You've still got people relying on you to kind of hold their hand and explain everything to you.
I think I've probably told this story on the podcast before, but I remember going to a networking thing ages ago, meeting this woman who's a photographer. And she took these amazing, really bleak landscapes, big sort of panoramic landscapes, black and white things. They're absolutely astonishingly good. And I asked how she was getting on being a business owner. And she said, well, I didn't decide to give up my job and spend my life walking into the middle of nowhere and by myself and taking photographs of wilderness because I like being in rooms talking to people about my business.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And there is only, and I think, and it's something that I've kind of run into myself, and I think anybody who starts a business does, that the percentage of stuff that you have to do to support doing the thing that you enjoy doing or that's important to, those percentages initially at least feel really, really out of whack.
Yeah.
And I think you have to get to a point where you can then, you have to get to a point where the business is bringing in enough for you to then be able to say, okay, now I can get someone to do this bit of the thing. I suppose you've done it an interesting way around because you've got, you're a therapist, you started this because you wanted to do therapy, and now you have people doing the therapy for you and you're kind of running the business side of things. How does that feel a bit weird sometimes?
Not really. The majority of my day is still spent as a therapist. Now, the business would probably make more money if I spent the majority of my day doing the other stuff, but I don't really want to do that. But I mean, I've done what I set out to do, which is to create an online hub where people can access really high quality help and support. And that, that was the aim. So I think if I spent more time doing marketing and sales and all the rest of it, changes to the website, technical stuff, all that stuff that I have limited interest in, then it would feel really weird. But I don't think there's ever going to come a day where the majority of my day is therapy because, as your friend or acquaintance said, I didn't spend years training to be a therapist, to cold call people or create Instagram posts.
So this might play to a little bit to your journey of moving from corporate into retraining as a therapist, doing your own thing. But second question that we always ask here on Do Yourself a Favour is, what was a book or a concept or a learning that you had that kind of really fundamentally changed how you saw yourself or your life or what you wanted to be?
I mean, I would love to have some really deep and meaningful answer for this. And you would think, everything that I had to read while I was training and have read since, I could probably come up with some wonderful philosophical response. But I think, I take a lot of inspiration, I think, from creative writing. And there is just a sentence from a book that sat with me for a very long time. There's a book called The Ocean at the End of the Lane by a writer called Neil Gaiman, who I think most people, even if they think they don't know who he is, they do, because so much of his stuff has been made into films and TV.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, the concepts in The Ocean at the End of the Lane, there are a lot of amazing, big concepts in there. And I could probably talk to you for about 3 hours just about that book. But there is a line in there that says you don't pass or fail at being a person. And I think there's something really powerful about that. And that's something to really remember, especially in my job, to take into therapy in a room with someone that might feel like they're not living up to their own expectations or anyone else's expectations, or that somehow your failure or your job title defines you. It doesn't work like that. You don't pass or fail at being a person.
I really like that. I don't think I've come across that Neil Gaiman one. The current favourite in this house is his, fortunately, The Milk, his kids' book, which involves space police dinosaurs. And
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, space police dinosaurs and pirates and some aliens who are trying to renovate and interior design the Earth. It's all set against the backdrop of a guy going out to get milk. It's really, really good. And so I was quite happy to be able to introduce my 8-year-old to Neil Gaiman. Yeah, we've not had Neil Gaiman on the show yet. I always do like it though when people bring, rather than a business book or a pop psychology book or something, because it's quite easy to go, non-fiction's for learning and fiction's for relaxing and entertainment or whatever. But there's so much you can learn about fiction from a point of view, ideas and language and human nature and other viewpoints and so on. That aren't actually sort of, facts and stuff that you would get from non-fiction books.
Yeah, I think if you get a chance, check that book out. And the other thing that comes up in it that there's loads of stuff, but something else I really love is it's almost quite a subtle message about what the love of money can do to people. Okay. And it's not kind of preachy or obvious, and it's good people that have got, the best intentions, but how you can get preoccupied with that in a really unhelpful way. And actually that was something that was really prominent in my career transition, because I had a job previously where, I wasn't a corporate lawyer. I wasn't earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, but I was earning fairly decent money. I was on track to kind of continue to progress up. And I basically gave that up. I gave up work and studied full time. So I gave up a decent salary to pay an awful lot of money to training something quite unknown. And somebody said, a few people said to me, "Are you sure you'll enjoy it?" And I said, "No." And they were really horrified by that. It's like, how can I tell you I'll enjoy it when I haven't even done it yet? And I had no guarantee whether I would earn money at the end of it, whether I would earn even as much as I've been earning before. But it was a really great lesson in learning that my value and my worth isn't actually tied up with my salary. And, I work with a lot of people that struggle with that. There is so much in this culture about our salary almost becomes, that's our value. That's the number that's stamped on our head, and that is what we're worth.
Yeah. How do you feel about that whole idea of, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life?
I don't know what the language restrictions on this podcast are, but
Oh, I think somebody swore once, and now I've got a little E thing forever. So go for it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll call nonsense, and by nonsense I mean something that comes out of the back end of a bull, because work is work and work can be hard. I love my job. I really love my job. But if I do too much or I don't take a break, I do get to the point some days where I'm like, oh, I really don't feel like doing this today. And the difference is, while I'm doing it, I'm fine. I'm not clock watching. I'm not kind of down in the doldrums like I used to be at a job. And it's not a like fear or dread of going to work. It's just a, like, I don't have the energy for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too much. I need a break. So work will always be work. I think you're selling people a bit of a false idea by saying do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's still work.
Oh.
Might love it, but it's different to socializing.
And there's always, well, as we've touched on, there's always aspects to any work which are like the hygiene factors and the bits you're not sure about, or the bits that you enjoy less. I think it's an interesting question when you're training for people to say, how you're going to enjoy it. Well, many people go into jobs that not only do they not know whether they're going to enjoy or not when they start them, but who actually don't enjoy them, turn up every day.
Yeah. I suppose people asked me that though, because it felt like I was taking a big risk, and I was taking a big risk. I wasn't just changing jobs. I was giving up my salary and spending lots of money to do something I didn't know the outcome of. And my income during that time largely came from renting my flat out. And I was able to do that because although I was nearly 30, I moved back in with my parents. I said, I'm going to study. I'm going to come home. Sorry, mum and dad. So it was risky, and it was giving up an awful lot. It was totally worth it. 100%. It was totally worth it. You're pleased to hear that I don't live at home anymore. Don't live
That's
at
that was the next question. The next question is always, do you still live with your mum? So we're moving a little bit now into the whole idea of workflow and how you get things done and how you achieve and accomplish things in your work. I've had to set some ground rules as well with this one, because it otherwise everyone just kept saying their phone. So your answer can't be your laptop or your phone, but it could be like a piece of software or an app, one of those things. What's something that you absolutely 100% could not live without? What is your absolute, you need this to live and work?
So I feel like this is somehow the opposite of my phone and exactly the same as my phone all at the same time. So you can tell me if this is cheating. But for appointments, I still use a paper diary. It doesn't matter that people book stuff in online on like software. I still then write that appointment in my paper diary. And I get through an awful lot of paper and pens as well. Like, I don't take my notes electronically. I don't type while someone's talking to me. I make some written notes here and there. So old-fashioned paper diary and paper and pen. And actually, if they were the only things I had to do my job, I would probably be fine. I don't need anything other than that.
Are you a fussy paper and pen person, or is it just anything that works and comes to hand? Do you have preferred paper and pen?
Anything that works, but I have taken to I found a pink sparkly Belle from Beauty and the Beast pen in my pen box. And I have taken to making little stars in pink pen next to things that I want to come back to next week that I've run out of time for. So there's some pink glittery notes. It's really funny making notes in sessions though. I didn't used to do it as much when I was starting the business. And I thought, has my memory just got worse? Is it a COVID thing? But I realised when I started the business, I had far fewer clients. And when you're speaking to maybe 20 people a week, if you don't write some stuff down, you'll never remember it all. No. But the really funny thing is, if you're jotting a note down here and there, I've got some people, bless them, that think you're taking notes of all their like worst neuroses and making kind of written comments about how all over the place they are. Like, why are you writing that in your book? What have you written down now? You're like, it's just for my memory. And actually, anything really big that I think, I will say to you, because that's the purpose of us being here together. This is not my secret book where I write things about you that you will never know and I will never tell you. That would completely defeat the purpose of what we're doing. But you just have to bear with me because my memory is somehow not what it feels like. It's not what it used to be pre-COVID.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. You're expecting a lot if you're dealing with that much information on an ongoing basis. So just to clarify, when you said you've got a pink sparkly Belle from Beauty and the Beast pen, that's not like a sort of like broad description. It is literally a Disney princess pen with a Okay.
I mean, if there was video on this recording, I would show it to everyone. But yeah, it's just Belle from Beauty and
Fantastic. I really like pen and paper. I mean, I'm a big technical person as well, but there's some stuff that the technology's never really clicked for me. So using the sort of like a Apple Pencil and iPad for taking handwritten notes never really stuck for me. I can't for whatever reason doesn't feel. I've got a couple of use cases where that really suits me, but the pen and paper, like I've had this same notepad. Actually, I bought it on honeymoon in Vietnam. This notebook, which is over 10 years ago, and it's been that's kind of that goes everywhere. When I had a corporate job, that went everywhere, and I carried it everywhere with me. And now it just comes from room to room in the house with me.
Yes,
just different places. And I just know if I haven't got it with me, something's going to pop into my head, and I'll just be flapping around looking for a pen to write something down.
I mean, the other thing with kind of doing everything on technology, I have to hold my hands up because I'm not overly interested in gadgets. I am so stingy when it comes to this type of thing. So it doesn't matter how great the latest iPad is and you can write on it and take notes. As soon as someone says it's £1,300 or £1,400 or a new iPhone's like £800 a grand, I'm like, nope, I am out. No, thank you. Like, I'm just too... It's not interesting to me, so I do not want to spend my money on it.
I do also think as well, though, when you spend large chunks of your time listening to people, which is kind of what you do, and I noticed this from when I was a manager and I used to have meetings with people or whatever, I always feel very conscious if I'm talking to someone who has a device.
Yeah.
A laptop or something like that. Meetings with people who are sitting with a laptop open in front of them, I'm always very conscious of the fact that there's some kind of barrier, which I don't think paper and pen doesn't feel as distancing.
Yeah, and I think I would go further than that. It's not just the barrier. The clicking of the keys is really off-putting, I think. And also the fact that most people can write barely looking at the paper. Not that many people can touch type effectively. So when you're talking, they're looking at the screen. I mean, it's fine in a lot of work meetings where human connection doesn't necessarily matter a great deal. But for what I do, I don't really think it's a very suitable tool.
No. If you've got a notepad and pen, then, you're not looking at Twitter or whatever, It's quite clear. It's quite clear what you're doing. Where do you stand on electronic books?
What, as in like Kindle?
Yeah.
I do read stuff on Kindle. For whatever reason, I don't think it's as enjoyable. It's not as nice as actually holding a book, but it's definitely got some eco credentials that are better than continuing to make things out of paper. But I do feel quite torn about it sometimes. And here we go, proof of how stingy I am again. I promise I'm not tight about everything. But when a Kindle at $7.99, I think I paid $7.99 for something that's not even physically there. But then that often, then I have the eco argument in my head and that often wins out. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not contributing to the chopping down of any more trees.
I've got a really strange relationship with electronic books and like Kindles so I stopped buying comics several years ago and moved entirely to any comics that one's for the most part on my iPad, unless it's like something that is like there are certain authors that I have to buy it or artists that I have to buy like physical ones by. And the only other books that I now get, and I went through a whole period where like my Kindle was like the way that I would read. and it's super convenient. You know, you can sort of, you know, you just throw it in your pocket and it's quite small. But now the only books that I put on it are like ones that look too heavy to hold.
I mean,
So
that makes sense though. And you can have Kindle on your phone as well. So that I do that quite a lot. So I just sit on the tube and read my novel, and you don't even have to have an extra device on top of your phone that you're going to carry with you. So that, you know, it reduces your carrying even further.
it does. It does. The other use case that was actually pointed out by somebody on this podcast that hadn't really occurred to me, but now is in my head is just the book's got a really embarrassing cover.
I mean, I don't know that I'd be bothered by that. I think probably doing the job I do, you become a bit desensitized to some quite graphic stuff in a healthy way, not damaging stuff. But, you know, I've done psychosexual courses, and then you get the recommended reading, and you're on the train with a book with a picture of a vulva on the front, and you just sort of forget that that's not normal, and other people might find that strange.
But okay, so it's either read that stuff on a Kindle or just like doing loads. I think is
Well, I think get you what, as in do it loads to get used to it. Yeah, I get. I mean, you get so used to talking to people about this stuff that you forget that other people might have a slightly more reserved reaction to it. But then having said that, I do think a lot of that stuff's become quite normalised, and they talked about a book, if you watch the series Sex Education, they talked about a book in that called Come As You Are, which is really great, popular book, and, you know, it's really great at normalising sex and people's ideas about sex and their bodies. So actually, I do think as a society, people are working harder to take the taboo out of things that shouldn't be taboo, and to normalise people's feelings about their bodies and attitudes to relationship.
So you've already said that you don't really have any particular interest in kind of shiny new technology and things like that. So I'm really interested in what was the last thing you bought or acquired that like got you really excited? What was your next like shiny purchase?
I mean, this question gives me, I feel like I'm having a bit of an existential crisis, because it's one of those where you start going, have I ever bought anything useful? Have I ever bought anything interesting? Like, am I interesting? Like, what is going on? I would want to have some really fun, exciting answer. I think, dull as it is, it's probably my Gusto meal box subscription. But I think that is a really useful thing to have acquired, and especially as someone that works quite late sometimes, because people want to see me after work, to be able to go home and make something idiot-proof where someone's measured all the ingredients out for you and it takes you 10 minutes, bit of a godsend.
So this is one of the kind of subscription style, you get ingredients sent over and recipes first, like,
Yeah.
and you make healthy home cooked meals, but you don't have like an extra half pepper kicking around.
Yeah, there's no waste. That's a really good thing about it. There's no waste, and I really appreciate as well.
Have you discovered any new cuisines or dishes that you were not aware that you enjoyed as a result of doing this?
See, it's a really weird thing to say. I'm not a big fan of fruit in general.
No, I'm with you. I had a really nice apple in Manchester once, but fruit is not like a big part of my life.
It's sort of just a bit sweet and weird, like it should be chocolate, but it isn't. But I've discovered that there are different types of fruit that I like in savoury dishes. Like there was a dish once where there was a salsa that was made of mango and chili, and that is amazing. And I've actually realised fruit in salad with really sour or really spicy stuff is actually that's the way forward. Like if you want me to eat a watermelon, stick it in a salad with some feta.
Right.
Pineapple and blue cheese. That's a weirdly good combination.
Okay, that's interesting.
It sounds gross, but it's really good.
One of the things that I always get funny looks about is over Christmas when we have Christmas cake, so like fruit cake, I really like to have like a kind of crumbly cheese, like a Lancashire or a Wensleydale to go with that, because it gives that sort of like slightly salty sort of bite to go against the richness of the Christmas cake. And I guess there's a similar kind of blue cheese pineapple thing on there. I've not come across that one before.
Yeah, very weird, but I discovered that when I went to an immersive dinner experience that was all based around Roald Dahl's The Twits.
Okay, right. You're gonna have to. You right. This definitely needs exploring a little bit more, because that isn't a book that I think of as being particularly gastronomic.
Yeah, I mean, it was so good, and the way it was done was so clever, and it was interesting. It was adults only, so it was a bunch of people, I guess, around our age who grew up with the books.
Mm-hmm.
But you went into a room initially that was set up like their garden, the Twits garden with the book, and you'd never be able to do this now post-COVID. You foraged for the food. So there were bird feeders hanging off the tree with nuts in them, and there were like rusty nails that had the piece of blue cheese and pineapple stuck in the wall and things hidden in the toolboxes in the shed. And that's where you kind of accumulated your canapes before going into the main room. And then, the main course of dinner was a chicken pie, a bird pie with like the chicken claws sticking out the top of it. But this all sounds grim, but it was so tasty, and it was all just very well done.
Are there monkeys in the Twits? I remember the one.
Yeah.
Did they make an appearance in any of the dishes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want. If you think you'll ever go to it in the future, not that it exists at the moment, if it comes back again, cover your ears now. I think one of the big reasons it was adults only is one of those monkeys ended up splattered on the wall at the very end in a very it was one of those moments where everyone sort of gasps and is shocked. And then there's a lot of awkward, nervous laughter. It was quite gross, but also quite entertaining.
Wow. Okay, I didn't even know that was a thing that existed. That does sound amazing. Children's author food related spoilers. There's probably a tag on iTunes.
Probably exists.
Fantastic. So, final question. You ready?
Yeah.
The question is, please, Caroline, could you complete the sentence? Do yourself a favor and
take a risk. I was going to do a really boring answer, or I think it's really boring, and I was going to say do your research, because I think in order to take a risk, you have to take a calculated risk. You have to be kind of sensible and weigh up your options. And, nice and fitting, because you and I met when we both worked in research. But ultimately, the important part, the thing that has paid off for me in kind of my transitioning career, the research would be pointless without taking a risk. So I think, the big bit for me is take a risk, back yourself, take the risk.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Caroline, where can people find you?
They can find me at cppclondon.com or at Caroline at cppc.london.com, on email if they want to send me any questions or find out any more.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and doing yourself a favour.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Not at all. It's been great. And we'll see you all again next time.
You've been listening to Do Yourself a Favour, the podcast about learning from experience and the things we do to make our lives easier. Brought to you by Make Work Work Better. My name's Tim Sisney from Make Work Work Better. Our theme tune is by the Titanics. Talk to you again soon.